Ever wonder what your IT provider isn't telling you? Yeah, we're going there. Welcome to Why It Matters, the show where we expose the IT your business runs on and why it matters. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Why It Matters. As always, we have the wonderful Jeff Kruger with us today. Thank you for being here.
Hello, everyone.
Yay. And the always incredible Josh Baker. Josh, welcome.
Yay.
Thanks for being here today. This episode, we really wanted to talk about cybersecurity again, but at a different angle. I have a lot of people that come up to me and ask, which I'm sure you guys do as well, ask about personal cybersecurity and family cybersecurity and what our kids and our life and how things are evolving. This came to my mind because I was asked to do a brief introduction speech. It was a 20-minute deal where I talked about personal cybersecurity, and we started digging through this and started talking to these people, and it was an interactive deal where people asking questions and so on. And there was just a ton of questions. I mean, there was some stuff that, as IT people, I think it's kind of like the guy at the Saturday Night Live copier machine. You know how everybody's stupid and IT people are not. It was like, because I didn't feel like people were stupid or dumb about it, but I felt like they just didn't know, and it was important information. Number one, I'll give you an example, and I'll ask you guys this: do you guys lock your credit?
Yes,
Always.
all three of them are locked. My wife's are too.
Right.
Unless you are planning on making a large purchase, your credit should remain locked.
There's no reason for it to be unlocked. Because then you can get like credit pulls and all sorts of crazy stuff that you may not even know are happening just because you're like asking for information for something.
You know, I sat in a room with, I want to say 30, but there may be slightly less, close to 30 people. And out of those close to 30 people, only 3 in the room had all their 3 agencies locked. So that's the kind of knowledge for me that was triggering why people just don't understand some of the basics. And that's why I really wanted to get at today. For me, that's your guys' answer is the way, right? Lock all 3 credit agencies. How do I lock credit agencies? Well, I believe 2 of them have apps that you can download. There's Experian definitely has an app. It's actually one of the better ones. And then TransUnion, I think, has an app, but the other one does not.
They all 3 have apps. I have all the apps on my phone, right? 2 of them you can actually. 2 of them, I don't remember which one's which. 2 of them you can just lock your credit for free, right? They want to sell you some upgraded monitoring thing, but realistically, it's your credit. You can literally go, and there's different verbiage. One may call it locking, the other may call it freezing, right? So you kind of have to kind of figure out the terminology used by different bureaus. Right. But 2 of the 3 you can do via the app. The 3rd you can do in the app, but it'll open up an external page, and you have to actually do it on the website itself. Correct.
Yeah, that's what I noticed on that one. Yeah, and that's interesting you said that, because I noticed that too. Was the Experian is freeze, and then the other ones are unlock or whatever. The other thing that I think is important to note with this is that when you lock them and you need to have your credit run somewhere, maybe you're applying for a new credit card or a car or a house or whatever you're going to do, it's very simple to either, number one, go to the website, right? You need to create an account. The account is free. Go to the website and choose unfreeze or unlock, and you don't want to do it permanently. Each one of these services offers a timer. So you can say, for the next 24 hours unlock, for the next 48 hours or whatever. So set your timer. I generally only do mine for about 24 hours, just so that they can pull, and then it locks it back up. The other thing I had a question for somebody was, they had set an account up years ago with one of these agencies and then not used it and forgot the password. So they were having a little bit of a hard time. So if you set this up, it's really important that you record this password or record your password
in a password vault.
Exactly. Thank you. In a password vault, right? And I think that's the next step. So our number one thing is lock your credit, right? That is the most important first step. Lock it. Number 2, then review it, right?
Let me give a little pointer, because I learned this the hard way, right? If you forget that you've locked your credit and you go apply for something, it will not allow you to apply for another 30 days.
Really?
Really. Mm-hmm. Right. So perfect example.
I've had a different experience.
My wife, Amazon, right? So I used to have an Amex Gold card that has since been canceled because we didn't reap the benefits of Amazon. Because if you're doing Amazon stuff, you get 5% back from Whole Foods, and you get 5% back for this and that, and all these different purchases, which actually adds up over time if you're ordering a lot of stuff. So I went to go apply for an Amazon card, and then got denied because my credit was locked and had to wait a 30-day cycle before I could reapply. So the best tip I can give is, if you're going to apply for something, figure out which bureau they're going to do a lookup against, right? Ask them which bureau they use. That way you only need to go unlock that specific one for that 24-hour window to actually get it ran, and then it relocks.
So I've actually had a little bit different experience, and I wonder if it's due to the particular agency. I went to get a new car, and I did not unlock it. And they came back and said, "Oh, your credit's locked." And I said, "Oh, duh. Yeah, it is." And they said, "It may not run again." And this was TransUnion.
Yeah.
And I went in, unlocked it, and it ran again.
Well, so they're doing manual polls, right? Like the Amazon card is backed by
automated.
It's backed by Chase Bank. So the 30-day period I got was from Chase specifically.
Oh, so Chase wouldn't let them run it again.
Correct.
I wonder if they'll change that over time. That seems like a terrible idea, because more and more people are going to run into this. More and more people should lock their credit. It should be a deal where it sees it's locked and goes, "Hey, unlock and click here to retry." In my opinion,
you'll probably see, as the technology matures and as people get more aware of how important their credit score is, that it will initiate a soft pull on your credit before it does that hard check, and come back and say, "Oh, this is locked. Before we're going to do the hard pull, we need you to go ahead and unlock it." That would be a technological solution to people not paying attention, right, which is where a lot of that comes in. And that's the right way to do it. But there's not a mass of people that are having that problem right now because they're not locking their credit.
Yeah, it has to be demand, right? Supply and demand.
Well, it's people put too much faith and confidence into other companies to do the right thing, right?
And none of them do.
Every single person in this room, every single person in this building, guaranteed at some point in time has had credit cards skimmed or a website breached and information leaked. And what are they going to do?
You're touching on something. Can you expand on, and I know we may have talked about this in other podcasts, but can you expand on how the dark web works and how data works and why and how they gather information? Because you mentioned that basically all companies get breached, right? All companies are going to get breached. At some point, your data is going to get exfiltrated. How does that work?
Or
why?
I own a fictitious company. I sell widgets, right? You obviously put in credit card information, billing information, and the like, right? That goes into a database somewhere, right? Whether or not you choose to store it to use it again or not, it doesn't make a difference because the transaction is still linked to your credit card. So there are different methodologies for individuals that are trying to steal information to get through front-end security and get direct access and what's called dumping a database, so to speak. And that's how all breaches, regardless, really happen. There's a bug or a 0-day that's exploited that exposes back-end information, which holds customer records, payment details, addresses, what you ordered, etc. Right? And once it's gone, it's gone. It ends up on the dark web, which we'll touch on, right? But from a regulatory perspective, some states are different. I think California is really the most stringent on this regarding a time-based window on how soon they must notify their customers that there was a breach, right? But beyond notifying their customers a breach, they don't really have to do anything. Typically, as a good faith, they'll go and purchase you credit monitoring for a year via one of the 3 bureaus, right? But realistically, your information,
letter you get,
you're gone, right? Oh, sorry, we experienced a breach. Your information was disclosed. We recommend you canceling cards, getting numbers changed, that kind of stuff. But realistically, right? You need to take it upon yourself to protect yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And if they're breaching these different companies, they're gathering little bits of information about each individual person. They might get your cell phone number from one breach. They might get your email address from another breach, or your first name, last name, email address, and then your address from another. And they correlate all of that data that they steal, and they make a profile on you, and then they sell that profile, right?
100%.
And then that's how they're getting social security numbers, whatever, and then they're hitting the credit, and that's the way.
Well, here's a perfect example, right? Maybe one website was breached, right, and email and credentials were disclosed, right, but no payment information. And then another website was breached, and there's payment information using the same email address, and now it links
right
to the credentials that you had, right? So now, as more and more things happen over time, right? Exactly. They're literally building a fingerprint for you, right? And these packages or portfolios of you, right, are then sold on the dark web for pennies on the dollar, right? Because they've done the work. They're now going to make a profit off of it. And then other people who copy credit cards and do the like, or go, I mean, remember it used to be all back in the day of the whole like MoneyGram or Apple gift cards at Walmart or this, the other, to where before they actually installed cameras that had AI in them to actually scan and all that kind of stuff, right? You could rack up a couple $1,000s worth of charges real quick. And you don't even know it until you go to use a card or a debit card, and all of a sudden your bank account's drained, right? So, you don't ever rely on anyone for your own personal security, right? Ever, right? And the best thing you as an individual can do is lock credits, right? Lock credit. Like I use like a personal gas card, right? That's tied to one of my sons, right? To start establishing credit. So by the time he applies, he actually has credit established over time, right? His account, his is locked too. Right.
The other thing that I like to do is I lock my credit, but also on all of my credit cards. In fact, my debit card, my bank is this way anyways. I go on and enable alerts and text message notifications for every dime I spend.
If
we all have cell phones, right?
If someone spends more than $5 on any debit card or credit card that I own, I get a text message.
Yeah. I mean, it's a quick text message. We're all used to text messages all day long. It's that notification that's important that you know.
Well, and
it's an easy way to know.
You should be able to set those up easily from your bank app or from your credit card app. And that way you swipe it and you should get that immediate ding on your phone. I have mine set up for any charge at all.
Right. Me too.
Because that way, as soon as I swipe it, I expect to hear the ding within a minute or two. And then I have the confirmation of everything going through correctly.
It just makes me feel better.
If I get the ding and I haven't done anything recently, something's wrong right now.
And sometimes I'll get the ding when it's an auto charge, and it makes me panic a little bit, which I like. I'm okay with panic. I would rather that than, like you said, wake up one morning and be $5,000 down.
Well,
and then I got to go fight for it.
It's a good thing. Like I've trained my wife, or that's not a good way to putting it. My wife trained herself because she was tired. She was tired of like using a card and me being like, "Hey, what is this? Was this you?" Right. So now I get a preemptive, "Hey, you're going to see this come through. That's me."
Right.
Right.
Well, and you and I have talked about this as well. One of the things that I do, and now again, I've trained my wife as well, taught her the way to do it, which is we use this credit card for online purchases only.
Yes.
Right. We do not use that credit card for purchases physically in the store or anything else. We've got another credit card that is used for just that. So one credit card for online purchases, one credit card for in-hand purchases. And we even have another credit card that is for reoccurring payments. So the reoccurring payments card, we know if something happens to that card, it came from one of those places, right? You can kind of track it down.
Let me take that next step further, right? Not all. They're slowly adding them to their portfolio, but most card providers will now allow you to create virtual card numbers, right? To where you have your actual card number, right? Which you don't ever need to use unless you're actually physically doing a transaction, whether you're swiping or inserting a chip, whatever, right? But you can actually create virtual card numbers and say, this card is going to be used for this.
For each individual payment.
That's and then idea. This I know is going to be $200 a month. So you have a $200 a month resetting on the first of every month limit. That way, if something happens, it either gets denied, but you also get alerted. It makes it very easy, especially if you're dealing with some toxic company, right, that doesn't have good customer service, to just turn it off, right?
Yeah, it's an individual card number. It's only that business.
Correct. So you turn off the virtual card number. That card is now dead. The number is invalid, and no more payments can hit your actual root card.
And then you don't have to cancel your card.
Correct.
Nice. That's actually a great idea. The other thing I found interesting when I was doing this seminar was, I said, how many people here know what MFA is? And maybe a third raised their hands, right? And I said, how many of you have multi-factor authentication configured across all of your logins? No hands, right? For me, that's the other protection step, right? Every account you have should have multi-factor authentication. And I can't think of any account I have nowadays that doesn't offer that. I don't know if I have even gaming accounts and what they all have multi-factor authentication.
I'm trying to think. I know I have a couple that still require cell phone codes as opposed to being able to actually use an MFA app.
We're talking about you, banks.
That's right, banks.
And cellular service providers.
Isn't it interesting how that... So, Jeff, you mentioned something. What's the difference between just getting a text, a code on your phone and the app?
So an app is limited to generally whatever device it's on. And if you're using a password manager, which you should be, you can put those in your password manager. If you have a text going to a phone, what happens if your phone gets compromised? With an app, oh, I lost my phone. I can get another phone. Well, what happens if you need your phone to be able to select an MFA from your cellular provider to be able to justify buying a new phone? You have a problem, and then you have to jump through additional hoops with them when you have to get that new phone because it was lost, stolen, or whatever.
In case no one's aware, text messages are plain text. They're not encrypted.
I was going to get to the end. They're not encrypted, and cell skimmers exist. Stingrays exist where people can intercept your cellular traffic. I think it was a few years ago when
Brazil. You said cell skimmer, you're talking about when you're in a public place and somebody has a device that can walk by and clone your number or your phone.
That will clone the IMEI and the number off of your the chip in your phone.
Right.
And also be aware you should be putting a pin on your phone so that whenever it reboots or patches or whatever, you need to put that pin in before it'll connect to the cellular network, because if someone tries to skim your card, they're just going to not be able to get anything because they don't have the pin that's assigned to it.
Well, I mean, there's technology, there's pineapples, right? You can literally sit in a public area, right, and generate LTE off of a pineapple, and then you're middlemaning all communication. So you can literally sit there and intercept plain text messages through your pineapple that you're running and see anything anyone's texting that's not encrypted. That's the difference between the green and the blue bubble with iPhones, right?
Yeah.
Right. If it's a blue bubble, it's encrypted via Apple Messages, right? If it's a green bubble, typically, depending on where it's coming from, it's going to be unencrypted plain text.
Right. And that's what happens for people who don't understand. This is when you have an iPhone and you're texting another iPhone user versus texting an Android user.
Androids come leaps and bounds, and now there's
a new service.
There's a new service, right, which allows like MMS and pictures and all the like, which actually does encrypt it now. But I mean, that's within the last 24 months, 36 months.
For me, I don't understand why. If you have anything that's private, and I know people will continue to do this, but if you have something that's private, don't write it down anywhere. I mean, that's really, if you're smart about it, Don't write it down in a text message. Don't write it down. It's something private. And people put the craziest things into email and text messages and whatever service that is not encrypted.
We're having an issue right now where we're trying to send a vendor for one of our customers a list of all of the vulnerabilities that are created by that vendor's product that we need them to fix. Except when we send them the encrypted email, so no one else can snoop on it because it includes a smorgasbord that would make any hacker absolutely jump with joy.
Salivate at the mouth.
Exactly. Would make their day to get. We have to send that encrypted, and they're having problems receiving that encrypted message because of how they're configured for information security, so they can't actually see the contents of the message.
We have a customer who has a board of directors, and they wanted to put some encrypted information into a place for them to get, but these people couldn't even open and follow simple instructions for an encrypted message, right? If you're not on the same platform, it causes some difficulties. In other words, if you're on the Microsoft platform and the person sending you the message is on the Microsoft platform, it's not a problem, right? But if you're on Gmail and you're sending it from Microsoft, there's extra steps.
There's extra steps,
and vice versa. And it just, generally, people who are older, who have not been involved in technology, have a very hard time with some of those encrypted messages, that kind of thing. But encrypted messages are going to need to be, I mean, that's where our future is going, right? Everything MFA, everything encrypted messages, at some point, it's going to be end-to-end encryption, in my opinion, everywhere you go.
Well, I would imagine, based upon zero trust architecture that's in business and should be rolled out in business, I would imagine eventually zero trust will be across personal space too.
Yep.
Right. At least I would hope.
And then in 100 years, the government will catch up.
Well, the problem is right now, depending on where you're at in the world, the government's already trying to put laws in place to keep you from being able to secure your data. Because if you secure your data, the government then can't snoop on it, even though you haven't done anything wrong yet.
Yeah.
And that, if you create a backdoor in a system that that the government can use to compromise your data because they need it for law enforcement purposes, that means there's some guy somewhere in the world with nothing better to do than to figure out how to do it themselves. And then all of a sudden, it's not just a way for the government for law enforcement purposes, it's the way for every hacker on the planet, at talking about the dark web earlier, because as soon as one person figures it out, he's got to show how good he is by showing all of his friends that he figured it out.
Yeah.
At which point all of your data gets leaked. Back to the original point where we were talking about credit leaks. All of your information is then on the internet for someone to then impersonate you, steal your money, set up fake accounts because they have all your information with a different email address. And now all of a sudden, because they know from your dossier, oh, this person uses Bank 1. I'm going to open up new accounts in Bank 2. Why? Because credit's not locked.
Yeah.
Bank 2, I know all their paperwork. I sent it all. They're sending it to my email address. It's your physical address, but all the paperwork's coming to my email address. You're never going to know until Bank 2 says, hey, where's our money because of a loan?
Right.
And then you're like, I don't know any, I've never done business with you.
I don't know who you are.
Exactly. And then you're in the problem of having to clean that mess up.
Right. We mentioned multi-factor authentication apps. What apps do you guys use?
I use Microsoft for most things, right? And then I use
it is the Microsoft. It's the Microsoft Authenticator app, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I also have Authy.
Yes, I use Authy as well. Yeah.
And I think
there's the Google Authenticator app as well.
Google Authenticator.
There's the Duo mobile app as well.
So there are multiple Authenticator apps that you can put on your phone. Do I need a separate Authenticator app for different services, or can I just use one Authenticator app and put everything on?
I would separate business from personal. Like I use Authy for personal, right? And then Microsoft Authenticator for everything business related.
Right.
So it's also dependent on what you're using the Authenticator for. If you're using a Microsoft 365 solution, you're going to be pretty much locked into the Microsoft Authenticator depending on the MFA options that are selected.
And it's going to work better overall with your
exactly.
Yep.
And so match your Authenticator to your use. And then, as Josh said, separate your business stuff from your personal stuff.
Right.
That includes passwords.
The other thing I was thinking of is that the other thing to note is with these Authenticator apps, make sure you know you can recover them, right? With the Microsoft Authenticator app, you need to back it up. And in fact, I think it backs up to iCloud. I think
it will. Yeah.
You actually, if you're on an iPhone, yes.
If you're on an iPhone, you have to enable that, and it backs up that way. How does it work on an Android? I don't have one.
It's the same, right? So if you restore from a backup, it'll restore all non-Microsoft tokens, right? But then it will walk you through the step on how to reset it for Microsoft through the app to maintain security and integrity.
So we've mentioned several times a password application. Call it a password vault, right? Something like that. I started using LastPass years and years ago. We now use a different one called Keeper, right? There are several of them, I would imagine, on the market, right? Password databases. Give me the overview of what a password database is, why I should use it, and how do I use that in the family? How can I use that with multiple people?
Well, so let's take Keeper for an example, right? Keeper comes with a personal or enterprise version. Enterprise is for work. If you have an enterprise license, you also get a personal version that you can maintain, but will have to pay for if your enterprise license ever goes away, right? The majority of password vaults, password managers operate the same way, right? They use what's called a master password, right? So you have a password that you cannot forget.
That's right? The one you must remember.
You must remember it because that's going to unlock all your other passwords, right? So that should be something, I think mine's like 25 plus characters. I'd have to count, right? But it's a pretty mine's unique 15, password.
I feel insignificant.
Right?
Got to add 10.
But the great thing about password vaults, especially in a family, right, is you can share passwords between family members, right? So like if I have banking information, I can share that with my wife, right? But
you don't have to share every password.
You don't have to share every password, right? Like my son playing Roblox, he doesn't know what his password is. I don't know what his password is, right? But I have his Roblox password in a vault and he has access to that, right? So it allows you to ultimately share passwords or not share passwords and maintain security through a master password. And without that master password, no one's getting in and getting any information, including you, right? Most of the good password vaults, there's no recovery method.
Like a crypto.
It's a self-destruct. If you don't remember that password, you go boom.
You start over and you have to reset everything.
Right.
But the main importance is wherever if it's a remotely hosted one like Keeper, where your data is in the cloud and you're basically using it to access the cloud with a copy of it if you're using like a mobile app. So if you don't have internet access, you can still access things. Or if you're using, any other of those products, the main point is, as long as you have the master password, you're good. And there's a way to always get back in.
Right.
And then you can share it. Yep. And then you can use things like, hey, I need all my banking in one location. And you can use good passwords, not password 123.
You can't.
You should not use password 123.
I have that on my luggage.
Yeah.
He has an alphanumeric luggage. Yeah. Interesting.
I do.
Spaceballs 2 is coming out. We're all looking forward to
it.
It
is.
Don't screw it up, Mel Brooks.
No.
Come on, Mel.
No, please.
So the thing I really like about these applications, I do like the availability to share it with my kids. So for you have younger kids, right? Mm-hmm. Jeff, you're kidless.
Yes.
Living the life, bro.
Children or money, pick one.
Living the dream, baby. The nice thing is my kids are adult kids. But I can share things with them, like important things about financial information for the family. If something happens to me or my wife, that kind of information. And I can share that out with them. Then they have their own database that they can store things in. These apps have a mobile app and they have an app that can run on a PC, right? So the nice part about that is that whenever you go to a website that is known or an application that is known, you can pull that password from your database. Very handy. You don't have to remember all these passwords. You don't have to copy and paste them. Literally, when you go to a website or an app, username, password, There's generally a little icon next to the username box and the password box. You click on that or click choose from passwords, and it fills the password in for you. So
that also provides a lot of protection against phishing attacks because those autofills are set to specific URLs. And if someone is using Microloft instead of Microsoft, it won't autofill from your password manager.
Right.
Because it's not going to know that URL, which is an additional layer of protection for your personal or business security.
But Jeff, can I just store passwords in a browser?
You can store passwords in a browser, and the very first thing that happens in a computer that's compromised is all of those passwords are queried and then exfiltrated.
Pulled from cache.
We do it all the time during our CSRAs for clients.
Yeah, we do client security scans, and when we check our clients' networks, and every client does this, every single one, because in the past, no one told us it was wrong, right? You go, do you want to save this password? Yeah, sure. Well, where does it store it, and is it secure? And when we scan our customers, every single time we find the cache is full of passwords, and we exfiltrate them.
And
then disable browser storage of passwords.
And then when we take over the customer, right, that's one of our security protocols is that we disable the ability to save passwords in your browser. It's just not secure.
Yeah.
Even though it seems so friendly and it asks you that little question like, I'm here to help you. Let me just save this for next time. Can't I have access to your microphone?
To be quite honest, Apple did it right? Between their iCloud keychain that goes between a Mac or your phone, right? That's a password vault in itself, right? And that requires multi-factor authentication to get in, whether it's a Face ID or putting in a PIN or something else, right? Just to get access to something. Everyone else kind of needs to catch up because they've led the way, in my opinion, probably for the last decade, because they don't store things in browsers. It's always in your key vault.
Yeah. What's the difference? What's a passkey?
So a passkey, the best way to think about it is a token stored on your machine, generally in a password manager or in your browser, that allows a computer to confirm your authorization without needing a password. Think of it as the equivalent of
token-based authentication.
Think of it as token-based authentication or certificate-based authentication, where they have one part and you have one part, and then they match those up, and congratulations, you're allowed in because they match.
And they're unique to the machine, right? So you can't use one device that has a passkey configured and then go to a different computer and expect that same passkey to work.
Right.
Unless you're using certain password managers, then you
correct.
Right.
Yeah. That's where password managers and password vaults come in handy.
They come in,
because then you can use those as a portable way of authentication.
And if you really want to have the best experience as an end user, you need to implement this few set of tools, right? It's not a bunch, but if you implement the tools correctly, then it's ease of use, right? It takes the frustration down.
There's frustration and learning curve when you're first trying to figure out how to set things up and get things going, right? But once you're done, and it becomes second nature, and it's actually way more convenient.
So if I went onto YouTube and I typed in how to use Keeper Password Vault or how to use LastPass Password Vault, you're going to get a bunch of information. There's how-tos all over the place. And if you spend a few minutes up front, what's the old term? Proper planning prevents piss poor performance. Same thing with here. It's way more of a pain in the ass to deal with it later once you've been compromised, once you've had your life poked into there. It's a very invasive feeling when someone, I know I've mentioned this on here before, and it still rubs me so wrong. I went all these years without my social security number being compromised. All this time, I was careful about it. I lock all my stuff down, and the stupid hospital leaked my information, and I instantly, the service that we have that monitors the dark web, instantly picked up, oh, here's your social. Like, God, it feels invasive. And if you don't like that feeling and you want something to be different, do a little preparation up front. Prepare yourself, prepare your family for security. Then the pain is less later. Lots less. So with regards to the family, what do you do, Josh, to protect your family web wise?
So there's a couple things, right? From like a networking perspective and hooking things up to wireless or plugging things in, any smart device doesn't go on the same wireless network or network in general that my computer joins or my wife's computer joins that she works or my kids' stuff,
That's
right?
like when you go to join a network and it shows a list of networks.
Correct.
And you can have multiple networks in your home.
Correct.
On a personal device.
Yeah. So in this day and age, I would imagine with the assistance of whoever provides your internet, you can actually get this set up on the back end. And realistically, you're not really plugging in smart devices, right? Most smart devices are going to end up on wireless, right? At least all my smart devices are on wireless, right? But you can configure wireless networks to not talk to anything else on your network and only the internet. Because in this day and age, the devices that are getting compromised are your smart TVs, your smart washing machine, dishwasher, refrigerator, stove, right? Your little Amazon Echoes and all these little different things that you have connected that are cool and like everyone wants to have. But those are the devices that are going to be compromised because all the updates, like all your TV's updating, like it could be updating right now. Your dishwasher could be updating constantly, right? They're constantly communicating with something that's not in your house for service and feature updates, patching, diagnostics, telemetry, whatever, right? Well, going back to the credit card situation, now you're expecting some other third-party company to maintain your security, right? But the first thing that gets compromised is these third-party companies. And then someone does something on the back end, and next thing you know, they've pushed an update to your TV, and now your TV has malware on it, right? Now your TV is a part of a botnet, right? So when you see in the news that this company is getting hit with a terabyte of DDoS, right? It's not coming from one thing. It's coming from millions of devices all over the world that have been compromised inside of people's houses, targeting this one company, and you don't even know it's happening other than the fact that maybe your internet's slower than usual, right?
I've definitely read stories about coffee makers and other just the refrigerators with the tablet in the refrigerator, Samsung or whoever. I don't know if it's Samsung, but they got compromised.
Well, there was a business that was compromised because one of their webcams was accessible to the internet. Somebody got into the camera, used that then to host the malware that then attacked the rest of the network.
It's always cameras. It's always phone systems. It's always those types of devices that have a purpose in business, but are not configured correctly from a security perspective. We're not locking down, like you're only allowed to talk to this source and that's it, nothing else. Right. And then that's how your devices ultimately become compromised.
Home routers are actually fairly intelligent these days compared to even, 10 years ago. I mean, dramatically better with multiple SSIDs and network configurability as far as security. And like you just said, you only can talk to here, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So that's like from a network perspective. I'm going to give you the spiel from a father with young, curious kids who have access to electronics, computers and tablets and things of the like, right? I know how I was as a child, right? I know boundaries will always be pushed, right? But it's your responsibility as a parent in this day and age with technology, because it's not going away. And to be quite honest, you shouldn't be limiting your kid's ability to use a computer at home or use an iPad or whatever, impossible. Right? It's impossible, right? They're doing it in school. And this can be a complete separate conversation about they're literally learning on computers at school. Like the day and age of being lectured to or opening books and having to read through things, it's gone. They're now reading off computer screens, right? Which causes like the whole skimming of things instead of actually reading and digesting, which is a separate topic. But how do you maintain visibility of what's going on, right? There are various products that are available. I use a combination of a couple, right? One's called Custodio. It's like Custido. and it's mobile device management, right? Specifically for kids. And it's great because you can ultimately create a profile for each child and create different rules and policies for each child. And you install a mobile device management agent, either on an iPhone or an iPad or a computer, and it centralizes all activity in one space to include policy rules. You can have this much time of YouTube a day, right? You are allowed to view these websites and not these websites, right? You can play these games, but not those games, right? So it's giving you an eye in
control of the device.
Full control in. It goes in. So like full transparency, my kids, they get 2 hours a day on electronics. That's it. However, I have another product that I think I actually bought from Costco. It's called Skylight. It's like one of those calendar tablets, right? Where you can share calendars too. It integrates with Outlook.com and Gmail and MSN. So you can actually aggregate things that are created for calendars, but it's also a task and reward system, right? So my kids can earn stars. We all remember star charts as a kid, right? I had them. It was bootleg compared to what it is now. My mom would create a poster and then create a calendar and then put a picture of like a toy that I wanted. And then when I did certain things, I get stars. And after I accumulate a certain number of stars. Yeah. Right. I made my own stars. I actually caught one of my kids fudging the system the other day on the Skylight. But what it ultimately does, right, is
you can't control brilliance. It's there.
Well, I know my children. So, but perfect example, like my kids earn stars by waking up and making their bed in the morning and picking up clothes and throwing them in the hamper and brushing their teeth and getting ready for school by a certain time and eating breakfast and all these things. So use your imagination as to what you can actually do to get them to earn stars, but it's gamifying chores, right? And part of the reward system is an additional hour of screen time, right? So you get your homework done, you get your chores done, you go outside and play for an hour or go do whatever, right? You can earn stars. And now, everyone's unwinding at 6, 7, 8 p.m., right? The day's almost over, dinner's done, where everyone's just chilling. Oh, you don't have time? We'll go redeem some stars and I'll give you another hour of screen time, right? So it creates like this automatically. Like I have the parent version of the app on my phone, which has total control over what they can do.
You got 200 stars in the bank. You just took 25.
Well, here's a perfect example. Like my son got 50 stars the other day because he got a handwritten letter sent home by his teacher talking about how compassionate he is and helpful and respectful and how, he like try to mitigate quarrels between other kids and like, hey, can't we all just be friends? Those types of things. So we got like a heartfelt letter coming home. I watched
his dad do that at a Judas Priest concert many years ago. So it runs in the family.
Oh, you're talking about stopping a brawl. Yeah. I just hugged it out with a bunch of people. I was like, there's no beef. We had a good time. You guys are a little drunk, right? We're probably not making the best decisions. Can we just high five each other and hug it out and then go our separate ways? Yeah. So it becomes this gamified reward system that allows you to let your children use the technology that they need to learn anyway, right? But it allows you to actually control what they can do at any time, and then you can restrict if needed.
What's interesting is that you're not only accomplishing one goal, but you're creating...
I created a system.
You created a system, but you're creating future growth.
Correct.
You're teaching them a structure, a life pattern. You're teaching them leadership without even, right? That's designing a system, implementing, following through, all kinds of learning.
Well, I like it because it grows with you, right? Like you're not going to make your bed, brush your teeth, get ready for school on there forever, right? Because once that's now established as a habit, you're just going to do it. So now I take those away and I replace them with other things to create additional habits, right? Go pick up dog poop, right? Go change the cat litter, right? Go help your brother with his homework. All these different things, the sky's the limit. Realistically, the hardest thing is to evaluate what 1 star is, right? From a monetary perspective. Right. Like if you want, like Colton wants a dirt bike, right? Okay, bro, it's 5,000 stars, right? So you can choose to spend your stars on more time for screen time, or why don't you go build some Legos and save your stars because you want this, and the more stars you spend,
right,
you're just never going to achieve this goal.
You're teaching them to make good choices too.
Well,
or it has the path.
There's no financial awareness in school these days, right? Like when I went through school, there was limited things teaching you like basic personal finance, right? I had to learn personal finance on my own, but you can't teach a 10-year-old personal finance if they're not making money. But you can create that same relationship between stars and reward as you do from money to life.
Correct.
Right. So
this is going to date me, but I actually had a class in school, and in the class they taught you how to write a check. Do you remember that, Jeff?
I had that exact same class, but really what you're doing, Josh, is you're training future adults.
Correct.
You're not creating eternal children.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a great point.
It's a good way for me to help them learn responsibility and accountability for their own actions.
While you protect them.
Well, I mean, and it's very easy, right? My oldest lost 10 stars yesterday because he wanted to go down this deep arc.
There's a negative star.
Oh, there's a negative star. Like I literally have a reward on there that says penalty.
Oh.
And you get penalized if you argue or talk back, right? So it also creates that structure that we need as parents with additional enforcement without beating your child, right? Because we can't do that anymore.
Helps reduce frustration.
Well, it takes out the arbitrariness of it as well from your child's perspective. I know this event will cause this response.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's always why did you lose stars? Well, because I did this. Are you going to do that again? Probably. But at least you know
what the consequences are.
The consequences are, right? That doesn't mean you can't earn them back, like he earned them back by going above and beyond. But at the same time, you now know.
How often does that pattern happen in life?
Yeah.
Literally over and over every day.
Yeah. I mean, me personally as a parent, I mean, I was a shithead as a kid, self-admitted, right? Like I was ruthless.
Welcome to the club.
But as a parent, you eventually, I would hope you'd realize that your only job in life is to create a better version of you, right? And through life's lessons that I've been through, it helps you kind of scope and shape that over time. But also realizing that you're dealing with a child, right? So you have to do it in the method that a child will accept and actually use. But gamifying a reward system, especially with screen time, it's
the way.
It's the way. It's 100% the way.
Well, and as they get older, you can start using that same gamification for how are they using their screen time?
Yep.
Are they using their screen time for brain rot scrolling TikTok? Or are they looking up? You brought up your son wants a dirt bike. Is he looking at how the engine works in the dirt bike so that he can maintain it himself? Because he's interested in that, which is a good use of screen time. So is that then a bonus?
If there's knowledge building involved, I think that's what the question is.
Realistically, it's because I told him he couldn't have an e-bike because they're death machines. And if you want a little motorcycle, it's going to be gas powered. We'll take it out of the desert and you can have fun. But you're not going to hop curbs around the park by the house.
Don't get me started. Almost every day on the way home, because our subdivision has a sidewalk down the middle of the subdivision in between houses, and there are people parked on either side of that sidewalk. So you get about half a second between when that kid comes flying out on the e-bike, scooter, whatever, and hitting your brake. So yeah, you're crawling through it below idle speeds to not kill kids.
It's actually really interesting, right? Like all the bike gangs, like the big cities, like they have the quads and the dirt bikes and the tricks running through, and they're all wearing masks and stuff. I have e-bike gangs in my neighborhood where they all wear masks and try to do tricks.
Yep.
I was driving home in the last couple of weeks, and there was a bunch of them like doing tricks in the parking lot of a park, and some kid was trying to do something and then biffed it against the curb and yard sailed like 20 feet, right? Into grass, thankfully. But I mean, no, keep those things away. Death machines.
When we were growing up, it wasn't as much of an issue because even though you built a ramp off of a piece of wood and a log and a piece of wood, and it was dangerous as hell, you're only going so fast, only how fast you could pedal.
Yeah.
So it was.
Those things go like 30, 40 miles an hour. Like they're hauling.
Not only are they hauling, but I heard kids at the McDonald's by the house talking about how they had looked up the YouTube video talking about screen time for how to change out the battery in their e-bike so it'll go faster.
Oh, they're
working on that.
You can tune them, and it's these kids have such incredible knowledge at their fingertips that here's the thing about time, right? You can't be 80 years old at this point, or 70 or even 60 years old, and understand what these kids are dealing with nowadays. The information overload that they're receiving every second of every day, you can't even comprehend.
No.
Right. And it's just this flood of information. And
that's why no one can focus.
Right. These kids, listen, we were worried about the internet, right? Gathering information. Well, before on the internet, you had to go to Google and you had to search or whatever, or web crawler, and
Alta Vista.
And you had to concatenate that data in order to make a judgment or a decision, right? And sometimes that was hard. And what happened was kids who were smarter dug further and got the information and then maybe shared it. Well, that's not even close to the truth now. So you went from that point to having things like a better search engine, then to having things like YouTube where there was explanational videos. When I was a kid, the big thing to get a hold of was the Anarchist Cookbook, right? You had a buddy or you ordered it from somewhere.
Yep.
I owned a physical copy.
Or there was one hidden in the library if you knew where to look.
The Anarchist Cookbook, right? You know what the Anarchist Cookbook is today? It's AI. It's right there. The question is that you don't have to dig hard and search the answers right.
Well, so let's talk about AI, right? Because so my son likes to play Roblox and do things with his friends, right? Well, there's also Roblox Studio where you can actually build your own Roblox environments. So part of his screen time excludes Roblox Studio, right? So if he wants to sit on his computer and figure out how to build things because you need to know how to program, right? He can do it as much as he wants, right? But now, how does he learn if he's limited on the internet? Introduced Copilot. So I taught Colton how to use Copilot, which then after the fact, I realized, oh shit, I just unleashed artificial intelligence on a 10-year-old, right? And then I had to go down the path of like, well, how do I kind of limit what Copilot's capabilities of? Well, they're getting better. They're not really where I'd want them to be. But if your child is associated to like a Microsoft family account, right, you can put limitations on the family account that Copilot will ultimately inherit because he uses artificial intelligence specifically to, hey, this code I'm writing isn't working correctly. Can you look at my code and tell me what I'm doing wrong? Right. And then it spits out new code and explains why it wasn't working and why you should use this instead. Right. So with the advent of AI, which is never going away, and to be quite honest, children should be slow rolled and introduced to it with guidelines as what you can use it for. Like, don't create me a book report, but help me research my book report. Those types of things.
Do ChatGPT and Claude offer those kind of family things?
I really don't think there's any LLM on the market that is geared towards child productivity. $1 million idea, someone develop it, right? Because then it'd be the equivalent of like Google Safe Search, right? If there was like a safe search option or a safe response option for any LLM, right? And maybe there is one out there that I'm ignorant to, right? Yeah. That would be great. If there is, I'd go find it and do some due diligence to see if it's adequate for my kids' needs. But
if you have Copilot and you're working with that, that's a great start.
I'm just a huge proponent of not limiting technology because you're ultimately hamstringing your child for future development and competition once they're in the work world. Because going back to what we always say, right? AI is not going to replace people, but people that know how to use artificial intelligence will replace you.
Absolutely. And to maximize the tool.
Yeah.
Well, and it's understanding what are the best uses of the tool, what are the best uses of the knowledge, And do you actually have knowledge, or are you just regurgitating what the tool told you?
Yep.
And building the knowledge first and then using the tools to accentuate and elevate that knowledge is the right way to use those products, as opposed to, well, AI just told me this, so now I'm going to go do that. I'm going to go put glue on my pizza to hold it in the box better because AI told me to.
Is that a real thing?
That is a real thing.
Is that like the Tide Pod challenge?
That's older AI bad decision.
If you're eating Tide Pods, maybe you deserve it.
I mean, it's sometimes personal accountability is the only way people learn.
It's completely lost.
But in general, right? I look at home information technology security as an elevation point, right? We talk to our clients about it, right? In fact, our clients go through mandatory training on a monthly basis. Some may be work relevant, some, in fact, I think half of it is personal related, like joining public networks, using third-party random VPNs, making you think you're secure, but you're really not, right? All these different little pieces. Once you do it at home, then you bring it to work, right? So I've talked to many business owners in the past who have questioned us, why do you focus so much on personal security? Well, personal security, that's their life that they're dealing with, right? It benefits them from same conversation of credit card, locking the credit card bureaus,
That's
right?
where it starts.
That's where it starts, right? So if you bring that same mindset that you've developed at home, safeguarding yourself and your family, right, into the workspace, your workspace security goes parabolic.
You're dirty at home, you're dirty in the workspace.
I mean, that's really it is. I mean, like, I'm not going to call anyone out, but I've been to clients where like, do you ever clean your desk? What does your home look like?
This is disgusting.
This is disgusting. Like, turn your key. What is this? Is this like food from the last year in your keyboard? Like, if you create good habits resonate everywhere, right? And that's the goal, not just with kids and at home, but just in general, when dealing with any form of information technology, personal or at work. You want to elevate yourself, elevate your business.
Listen, it's one thing if you don't wash your underwear, right? There's consequences to that.
You wear underwear?
I don't need to. I'm going to just disassociate for a minute.
It's one thing if you can make choices in life to not do some things, right? You can make that, and the consequences are not as much. Your personal security, every single day you make the choice not to pay attention to it, you're losing the battle. I mean, it is a massive thing that can hit you one day and cost you days, weeks, months, years of your life. Once somebody's embedded.
Well, look at it from this perspective. I grew up where doors weren't locked to houses and doors weren't locked to cars. Well, I remember keys being left in unlocked cars.
For sure.
Right? You don't do that anymore, though.
The whole city of Boise was that way. Mm-hmm. Growing up in Idaho, in fact, probably the whole state was like that. Nobody locked any doors. Mm-hmm. Left keys in cars. Windows down.
I mean, it's sad. Our society has gone in this direction, which could be a completely separate topic. But I mean, I remember my parents kicking me out, having 90 summers. Right? You're out of school. See ya. You're not allowed in the house. Go drink from the water hose. Go ride your bike. We'll see you when the streetlights come on. That doesn't happen anymore, right? Now my kids go out and they'll do what I did, but they're with a group of kids together, right? The whole buddy system, right? Because you never know what's going on, and it's not being, overprotective as a parent.
Paranoid,
It's not being paranoid. It's just we live in a different age now.
It's preparing for the world that you live in.
Well, and another example on that, my brother has a son. His son has a smartwatch. That smartwatch is on his wrist. If he's outside the house, that smartwatch is on him. And his school told him, no, that's a piece of technology. He's not allowed to have it in the school. And my brother said, cool, let's go ahead and start the withdrawing papers because we're going to take him out of here because that will be on his wrist while he's not in the house. I need to know where he is and I need to be able to get a hold of him. And if that violates your rules as the school, cool, I'll take him to a different school.
Yep.
And the school immediately caved. because it wasn't about, they weren't thinking about it from the perspective of child safety. They were thinking about it because maybe
it's a distraction.
Because school is not the same. Schools are not forward thinking. They are behind always. And that's what happens. Well, this rule's been in place for 50 years and that's the way we have to do it. No, you need to move forward with time because everything is moving faster and faster.
You can't have a calculator in math class because you need to learn how to do it into your head.
Hmm.
You can't have a smartphone on your desk during math class because you need to learn how to use a calculator.
Yep.
You can't have a computer because you can use your smartphone. It changes over time because, how many of us were told as kids, probably all of us, you're not going to have that available when you're out in the world, so you shouldn't learn how to use it. We all have the entirety of the internet in our hands at all times. We should be teaching people how to properly use it and how to properly gain knowledge from it, not to not to treat it like something bad.
Understand the risks associated, right? And then understand how those risks can affect you and how to mitigate risk.
Well, it's a forward thinking mindset, right? Like I'm always thinking about what could happen later compared to what could happen today, right? Because I don't want to have to continuously monitor things over time. I want to build some methodology that keeps my children safe, that grows with them and can adopt with them over time, right? It removes the complexity and it allows you to actually feel like that they're doing what they should be doing and that they're going to be productive. And then it gives you a bird's eye view into what they're actually doing. Like, perfect example. If my son searches for something weird on YouTube, I get dinged, right? That doesn't mean what he's searching for is bad. It's just letting me know that this is a new search term that's being used. He's now going down this path. So I can cut that path off at the roots if needed, or I can just let him go because it's not an issue, right?
But you get to make the decision as a parent.
You get to make a decision as a parent, right? And I mean, that wasn't around.
No.
When I was a kid, your parents relied on you to make good decisions when you're out in the world as a child, right? So it kind of
there simply was there was less dangers. It is not the same world. We do not live in the same world.
Well, talk about child predators, right? How are you protecting your kids against child predators? Do you know if they're communicating with anyone online, right? Bob from accounting who's 35 talking to a 10-year-old pretending that they're 13. You don't know, but you can find out if you take some precautions.
Right. Right. No. Teach yourself before it becomes a problem.
Well, and know what platforms your kids are using, how they're using it, and who they're using it with. And back to the parental controls, limit who they can interact with. And then if you find out one of those companies that you are letting your child interact with, Roblox, Minecraft, whatever the next game in that line is going to be, they have a problem. I'm just going to cut that off for a while.
Yeah. I mean, even from the perspective, like my kids play video games with their friends, but voice chat's disabled. They can't chat. If you want to talk to your friend while you're playing video games with your friend, you have an iPad, they have an iPhone, FaceTime them or call them. You can talk to them over the phone because I know who you're talking to, right? You're not getting harassed by some punk ass kid or adult who's talking shit to you while playing video games that's now demoralizing you because you don't understand what's actually happening. Someone's making fun of you.
Right.
So
right.
There's a lot of things that can be done. And to be quite honest, the knowledge that's disseminated on how to actually do these things, it doesn't exist, right? I, being me, had to go down the road to figure out and vet various products and figure out what would work best based on my required use case and what my expectations were, right? But it's a Google or AI search away to figure out what fits best for you in your situation.
Yeah, if you're a parent, jump onto AI and start asking some questions. Educate yourself. Know what your kids know, right? I know sometimes people find it funny or whatever that their kid's smarter than they are and brings them information. That can be okay, but don't let it make you ignorant. That you need to be on top of things before it whacks you in the back of the head. Which
I mean, the Riz and Skibidi toilet, I had to go down that road to actually understand what my son was saying to me and coming home from school. And then I was like, this is absolutely ridiculous. Like, you guys are using words for things that exist from when I was a child, right? The latest one is my son comes home is like, bet. Like, bet. I used to say that when I was in middle school. Bet.
And now they use bet for a lot of different terms. Like, they just throw it out. You make a comment, they go, bet.
Yeah. It's all about context now.
Yeah, it's
as
context.
Opposed to understanding what a whole sentence structure is.
My son said to me the other day, hey, Dad, when I come over, can we make some glizzies?
I only know that it's a hot dog because I learned.
Yep.
Munching glizzies, gobbling glizzies.
I saw the YouTube video where it was the Costco glizzies.
Yes. Costco, they got big glizzies over there.
They do.
Man.
Well, that was entertaining. I definitely learned something today. I appreciate you.
I learned what dead ass meant the other day.
Dead ass, yeah.
Well, he lost stars and he's like, are you dead ass? I'm like, yes.
You lost stars, are you dead ass?
And I was like, yes. Then I had to go and like
Google it.
What does dead ass mean?
Yeah.
Oh, serious. Yes, I'm 100% serious, son. Go to your room. Yeah.
Yes. That means you're getting old right there when you got to glizzy their terms.
Glizzies.
Well, thank you guys for being here. I hope everybody got something out of the podcast today. If you need more information, we're always glad to help. Our company website is www.stabilitynetworks.com. You can leave a comment down below. Please like and subscribe if you found this valuable in any way. And if you're a parent that needs help understanding what to do for your kids or needs help with your home network, let us know. We're glad to send you any information we can. Thanks for being with us today on Why It Matters. Thanks for listening to Why It Matters. If today's conversation opened your eyes or gave you something real to think about, share this episode with a business owner or friend who may need it. And if you want more insights on how to make technology actually work for your business, subscribe and follow us for upcoming episodes. And until next time, take care of your tech, and it will take care of you.